Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my Jobava London system. Why it is called Jobava London system and not London system? This is actually the fault of Bado Jobava, a Georgian grandmaster who used to play the system of the Jobava London all his life. The difference between London and Jobava London is related to the move knight c3. This DVD I divided into 5 different chapters, which I will briefly show you right now. In my first chapter, I concentrate on d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4, and e6. In this system, however, if white has the chance to maneuver his knight in the early stage, he should do it. So knight b5 here is actually the strongest reply, and the idea is just to maneuver this knight back, sometimes to a3, sometimes it can even establish on b5, and then with the help of the pawn we can stabilize the center. In my second chapter, after bishop f4, I concentrate on the move c6, and here I don't go for the main road, which is f3, but I choose the sideline of queen d2. The reason for this choice is very simple to explain. After f3, I'm not very happy with the move queen b6 because it's very difficult to guard the pawn on b2. And with queen d2, the solution after queen b6 is obvious. We can simply castle alongside, and for this reason, queen d2 to me at least makes a lot more sense. After queen d2, the main 2 moves are bishop f5 and also the move e6, which we will actually see in my chapter 2. After bishop f5, my goal here is to play with f3 and to start an early attack with g4 and h4. With the help of the pawn on c6, we are not in kind of time troubles to have a nice attack on the king side, as c6 is a waste of time in order to push c5. Well, in the next chapter, in my chapter number 3, I will focus on the move g6, which can arise in different moves orders. For example, after d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4, g6 can be played right away. After g6, here I believe that still I will go for the very same variation with f3 and queen d2. Another possibility is to push e3 and then connect the whole idea with h4, h5. But this is not in the spirit of the DVD I'm actually doing here, because the thing is, with the bishop on f5 in this line, for example, I also choose to play f3, e4, so it makes sense to stick to the plan. After g6, as I already mentioned, f3, bishop g7 and queen d2. The only small drawback, at least according to modern theory, is the move c5. It is said that c5 gets black a very nice position. I actually can assure you that white has no problems, and black is forced to play very precise to prove the equalization. In my chapter number 4, I concentrate on the move bishop f4 and a6. The main idea of a6 is quite obvious. Black wants to avoid the maneuvering of the knight by knight b5. After a6, here my choice is to play e3, and here black has 3 main moves. One is e6, one is c5, and one is bishop f5. We obviously will investigate on in the whole chapter of number 4. In the last chapter, finally, we get to bishop f5 instantly. In my opinion, the most trickiest move, because the problem is here the setup with f3 I don't like, as c6 hasn't been played, so a6 and c5 moves are possible, and black gets a huge play in the center in a much quicker fashion. For this reason, with bishop f5 instantly, my master plan is to play knight f3 and knight e6 in a quick motion. The same, by the way, in the variation with bishop f4, a6, e3 and bishop f5. Also here my aim is to get the knight to e5 in order to push g4 and h4, and a lot of these positions are actually quite dangerous for black. Well, last but not least, after all the chapters are done, you will get an exercise chapter where you can prove, or where you can try to understand how much you learned, what do you remember, and what plans you kept in mind. It is basically concentrating on tactics, as I believe this is the most important thing, especially in the Jobava system, as it is quite tactical, which is even coming as a surprise to me. Last but not least, why did I choose the move order knight c3 over bishop f4? The reason for that is quite easy to explain. With knight c3, I stick to the spirit of the Jobava London. With bishop f4, however, the problem, for example, arises that after knight f6 and e3, the usual setup already kind of limits me down from f3 and e4 as one thing. Also with e3, it limits me down from h4, h5. That's why I believe that knight c3 is actually a good move order, because it is the spirit of the Jobava London. The sad news, however, is that after knight c3, e6 or c6, we have to stick to Caracan or to French, as I don't have a better solution here. But of course, if you prefer, you can also start with bishop f4 followed up by knight c3. Sometimes there are advantages, sometimes there are disadvantages. It depends what you like and what you prefer. But in any case, the combination of London and Jobava London will help you as a good guideline to know what to do. In case of c5, also here you cannot go for the setup of the London. You are forced to push e4. There is nothing else left but e4. And this line actually, if you study it carefully, is good for white. Anyway, that was basically it, and this was the intro I was going to speak about. I hope that you have a lot of fun with this Jobava London DVD. It is my first English produced London DVD. I only produced the normal London in German. Jobava London is my English and German project. I hope you will enjoy this DVD and gain a lot of points, because I believe that this DVD not only contains a lot of novelties which are better than from games of grandmasters, but also gives you a lot of spirit for tactical aggressive play.